It's time for New Orleans Saints head coach Kellen Moore to turn it up with Tyler Shough under center. We got all of that and a little bit of lagniappe for you on today's episode of Locked On Saints.
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, Who Dat Nation and Who Dat family? I am your host, your friend, Ross Jackson, New Orleans native, your New Orleans Saints expert and credentialed member of the media covering those New Orleans Saints as a Saints beat writer over at LouisianaSports.net. And on today's episode of Locked On Saints, I want to acknowledge you, the Saints fan who has been through a lot in less than a calendar year rooting for your favorite team. We'll kind of chronicle everything that you've watched happen over the course of the last November to near November. Before we get to that, though, I want to dive into some of the tape around Tyler Shough, what we saw in our extended viewing of him against Tampa Bay Buccaneers, what we'd like to see improve in his next start, and why it probably will, just logically. We're going to kick everything off with head coach Kellen Moore. With his guy under center, it's time for Kellen Moore to let it loose. We got all that coming up for you on today's episode. We thank you very much, whether it's your first time or your next time, being here with us this time, making us your first listen, and being an everydayer here on the show, which is a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by our friends over at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Go and download the Gametime app today. Kellen Moore now has the guy that we perceive as his guy under center, and that means that it's time to turn it up here in New Orleans. The New Orleans Saints have not been a successful offense. They have not put points on the board consistently. They have not moved the ball consistently. They have some kind of gree at the 40, 35, 30-yard line in every game on the opposing side of the field that they just can't seem to get past, and they can't rely on their special teams unit to consistently put points on the board. The New Orleans Saints are not anywhere near the New Orleans Saints that we expected them to be here in 2025, and that is even with low expectations coming into 2025. Remember, I thought this team would win maybe 4, maybe 5 games. Now I'm not sure that they even get to that point, or at least they need to get to that point in order for Tyler Shough to have his best opportunity to be the starter again in 2026. And so now's the time. You've got 9 games left. 6 of them are on the road. You have several divisional opponents, and you have some winnable games ahead of you. Not necessarily this weekend, going up against the Los Angeles Rams, but winnable games down the stretch. Now is the time to turn up the heat and get this offense going. And one new thing can change everything for a team. We often see teams get that new quarterback bump anytime that they go to that next quarterback. We see that sometimes with coaching and coaches, interim head coaches, new head coaches, all that as well. The Saints need to take advantage of that moment this weekend and really beyond throughout the rest of the season. Kellen Moore has not been, or at least the offense hasn't looked like it's been pioneered by the offensive genius of Kellen Moore that we expected so far this season. Some of the play calling I never really dig into because I don't know that he has his roster. He's still dealing with he still has a lot of the Sean Payton, Dennis Allen roster right now. And that's the same thing for Brandon Staley over the defensive side. But I do think that there's some things like red zone play calling that you can look at and you could say, okay, how many times are you going to throw a swing pass to the wide receiver, right? Or the amount of times that probably those run plays turn into, those RPOs turn into those quick passes to the outside for wide receivers that aren't yards after catch receivers, that go down upon catching the football or go down at first contact. That's the reality of the Saints talent pool right now. That's not to say that these players are untalented. It's just that that is not their strength in this game. And so for Kellen Moore, not necessarily utilizing these players the way that they are most apt to impact a football field is not a good example of building off of player superpowers, which was a big thing for him coming into this job, putting players in position to succeed. Everything that sounded so simple for some reason looks so arduous and looks so laborious for this New Orleans Saints team. Now is your opportunity, or on offense, now is your opportunity for a reset. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be ready to rally around Tyler Shough inside that building because they want the young man to succeed. And the better that he succeeds, the better they all succeed on that roster. And so this will be an opportunity for Kellen Moore to really let things go, to really let loose on this offense. The plays are going to be the same, right? The playbook is the playbook. And it's not like anything was being held back when it came to Spencer Rattler. It's just that this offense existed as a condensed offense because it was a lot of either take the three-pointer or take the layup. And it was a lot of taking the layup. And so now you have a guy like Tyler Shough that's got a big arm, a live arm, that will go out there and take some risks. He was a little bit too conservative early on in training camp, but got riskier and more aggressive as camp went on. We saw him get a little bit less aggressive again during that Tampa second half, but that's not surprising for those circumstances. But now he's going to be the starter. He's going to be game planning all week. He's going to be working with Kellen Moore all week. He's going to be working with Rugiet, Chris Olave, Brandon Cooks, Juwan Johnson, as long as Taysom Hill, Foster Moreau, as long as all these guys, Alvin Kamara, Devin Neal, as long as all these guys remain here in New Orleans leading up to the game up against the Los Angeles Rams, as obviously that trade deadline is on the way. Everything's there. Every opportunity is there. And for Tyler Shough, these 9 games might be his only opportunity to become the New Orleans Saints starter for 2026. Because if this team has the number 1 overall pick going into the NFL draft, they should take a quarterback because you're clearly in need of a quarterback in that scenario. And so for New Orleans and for Kellen Moore, and maybe even most importantly for Tyler Shough, it's time to let it loose. You got nothing to lose here. The team's 1-7, not a playoff team, not turning this team around to become a playoff team, not a Super Bowl contender. That's not going to be true of you in 2025, probably not going to be true of you in 2026. You have time, but Tyler Shough only has this much time, teeny tiny little amount of time, 9 games. That's effectively all he's going to get. And that's if he's on the field for the maximum of the opportunities that he has through the rest of the season. And so to me, it's time to turn the volume up to 10. It's time to crank the heat all the way up to high, whatever analogy you want to use. It's time. This thing needs to open up. And I don't think that Kellen Moore has done anything wrong. I just think that there have been a lot of decisions that have been made that have kept things conservative at times when you don't need to be conservative. And that could be by giving an outlet to a player and a player choosing to take that outlet as opposed to pushing the ball downfield. Tyler Shough, you got 9 games, buddy. Go out there and push the ball downfield. Go out there and take the risks. No one at this point has anything to lose, right? No one's getting fired. It's the first year. Go out there and if nothing else, have a good time. And therefore, have fun, push the ball downfield, open up this offense a little bit. This is the opportunity. This is the time for Kellen Moore because he now has the guy that we believe to be his guy, which is the guy that they drafted after hiring Kellen Moore. Your coach, your quarterback. Is it going to work? Now's the time to figure out. And you're not going to figure that out by playing safe and playing conservative. You've got to be aggressive. You got to take shots, and you've got to inject some risk into this offense. Now is the time to get that done. Coming up next, we'll take a look at what we did see from Tyler Shough and our extended view of him up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, why there's much to improve, and why a lot of it is probably going to fall right into place. We have that coming up for you next as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Saints is brought to you by our friends over at Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August of 2025. From footwork to breathwork, you know that the athletes sweat every single detail, and Mazda brings that same level of intention as they craft every model, and you can see it in the craftsmanship of every single detail as well, from the metallic accents to the available Napa leather upholstery. Don't forget the all-wheel drive as well that comes standard in every crossover SUV so that you can drive with confidence in almost every season. You can make those everyday drives feel like anything but with the smooth handling and intuitive controls. Just like the players that you know and love, they sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda move and be moved. Today's episode also brought to you by friends over at Gametime, the absolute best place to go to get last-minute tickets for your favorite events. The NFL season is back, and you know there's no better place to be than in that stadium cheering on your favorite team. But let's be honest, getting tickets sometimes can be a real pain and a real hassle between long queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout. It can be very frustrating. That's why I exclusively buy my tickets to my favorite events with Gametime, because with their Gametime guarantee, you'll get 100% authentic tickets that are delivered on time, and you know you're getting the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price that you see is the price you actually pay. You can pull up Gametime right now. I did, and in just a couple of snaps, you can find your amazing deals to your favorite NFL games with tickets as low as $100. Download the Gametime app today and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Again, download that app and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. All right, family. New Orleans Saints quarterback Tyler Shough got a little bit of an extended opportunity going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the second half of their Week 18 contest. And so I went through and I broke down some things on tape, from situational stuff to just kind of down by down stuff, and then just overall eye test stuff. And I wanted to bring you some of those thoughts here, and then over with our insider group, we'll have some more of the telestration kind of film study. So if you want to join that, you can click the link in the description or head over to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnSaints. You can get access to film studies, exclusive Q&As, and much more. The thing that's so interesting to me about what we saw from Tyler Shough is that it wasn't that inspiring, what we saw from him up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And really not just from him, just from the offense as a whole. Everything remained very condensed. There were still some routes that were available downfield, but they didn't really take those opportunities. And look, that makes sense. At a certain point, when you make a quarterback change like that, yeah, you're looking for a spark, but you're also not trying to get your backup quarterback who didn't practice your playbook all week because he was running the scout team and doing the other team stuff for the entire week. You're just trying to keep that guy from getting hurt, right? You're just trying to keep that guy from going out there and, getting obliterated by what was a pretty good defense with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, the good thing for Tyler Shough is that by the time that he got out there, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers kind of let their ears come back up a little bit. They weren't necessarily looking to put too much pressure. They were trying to keep everything pass-worthy ahead of them because it was a 20-point deficit at one point. And so because of that, it keeps you condensed as an offense. And so they started playing a lot of single high looks and kind of 3 safety look or 3 DB looks, deep cover 3 looks, things like that. And so you don't really have a lot of opportunities to attack downfield, but eventually you've got to get beyond that. And so here are some things that stood out to me about Tyler Shough's day that you'd like to see improve going up against the Los Angeles Rams. But I do think some of these things will inherently improve and at least take some step forward in terms of even just potential, just based on the fact that he's going to be able to practice, right? The starting quarterback gets all of the reps during the practice week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. It's one of the reasons why Kellen Moore didn't want to drag on the quarterback competition to the end of the week and try to hold off until Friday to make a decision, a la Dennis Allen and some of the other guys that we've seen around the NFL for some time. He wanted to make sure that a starter was announced, got that done here on Tuesday, and then now is in position Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to work with his quarterback. And so here are some things that stood out. 17 of Tyler Shough's passes were either short of or within, let's just say within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. He completed 14 of those 17 passes. So when you get those opportunities to keep it short, you do want to see the numbers, the completion numbers up. He was 0 of 5 on 20-plus yard passes. Did have actually a pretty nice pass to Tyler Shough. Nope. Did have a pretty nice pass to Chris Olave down the left sideline, but just put it too far out of bounds, ends up leading Chris Olave out of bounds. That one stays in. It is a little bit further upfield. Maybe a chance that Chris Olave goes out there and makes a play on that one. But outside of that, not a lot going for them when it came to opportunities downfield at all. One nice catch and run opportunity for a 15-yard pass to Juwan Johnson, but that was really about it. So I think you just want to see more aggression, and I think that will be there in a situation where you're prepared to go in to start a game, right? With comfort comes improvement. With comfort will drive improvement. And some of that comfort comes from being able to actually practice with your teammates that you're out on the field with. So I think some of these things will inherently get better. That's certainly one of them. Because again, I think if you're Tyler Shough, you're ready to let it loose. You've got nothing to lose. If you're Kellen Moore, like you have all of the, you have a very wide berth here. Like nothing's going to happen to Kellen Moore if you go out there and attack and it doesn't work. Like it's not going to be bad for you. You're going to be fine. You're not going to be fired. It's your first year as a head coach. I assume you're that he's on a long deal. He ain't going nowhere. And there's no reason for him to go anywhere until you're several years down the road. And then if it's not working, then you're probably back in the head coaching search, but there's no reason to believe that that's going to be the case. And there's certainly no reason to rush to that kind of conclusion right now. Let it run its course. And I think that that's what you're going to see here. And so that's why I would like to see Kellen Moore and Tyler Shough step up a little bit when it comes to these opportunities for the offense, right? It's not necessarily just them having to step up. It's stepping up for the offense when it comes to taking some of those shots downfield and getting a little bit more of the explosiveness built into this offense. I thought that his ball location was pretty good. Even on the interception, a lot of people tried to say that was behind Chris Olave. It wasn't. Chris Olave ran either it was a curl or a hitch. I think it was a curl because he went to the outside. But it was a curl, and that was the angle at which his body was, and so it was meant to be there. If anything, he threw it too high. And there was a moment actually to where they ran a similar play on the very next possession where instead of going too high, he went low to where Chris Olave like bent down to catch it and then ended up picking up 9 yards. So you saw the adjustment pretty much on the next pass. They basically gave him a very similar pass, the very next passing attempt that he had once the Buccaneers offense was off the field. And so getting out of that, I think that ball placement stuff and everything like that was pretty good. His first throw was an out route on the flats to, or I should probably say more of a spray route out of the flats to Taysom Hill. Good location on the pass there. Caught a couple of other of those outbreaking routes with good location on the ball in those situations as well. I have that, he completed 2 of his third down passing attempts or converted first downs on 2 of his third down passing attempts, and so I think you'd probably like to see the situational number there come up. Converting, 2 on 7 third down passing attempts isn't ideal, but something you definitely want to look for in terms of, some improvement going into next week. He was 1 of 6 under pressure for just 6 yards. Being under pressure was the big question mark all around Tyler Shough going through the draft process. Something to definitely watch as he goes up against another very talented defensive line in the Los Angeles Rams. And of course, he will visit himself, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers later on. But he was 4 of 7 against the blitz. So pretty good and strategic there. Did a lot of wherever somebody was blitzing from, put the ball where they were coming from, because that typically means that there's something open there. And then he only had 1 play action attempt. That makes sense because of the game situation. And so you probably like to see that step up a little bit. 4.3 yards per attempt. Got to step it up. And that goes for the entire offense. Like the offense has got to be better than 4.3 yards per attempt. And this isn't the first time they've been in that 4-yard range this season. So just another example of them wanting to step some of this up. But I do think that some of this gets better inherently going into next week's game with being able to actually game plan and practice with the team. All right, coming up next, you've been through a lot. Let me acknowledge you. We got that coming up as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs. With features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance, you can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So, let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Let's Let's get it, Who Dat Nation. You have been through a lot, and that deserves to be recognized here as we close out the show today. We've taken a look at the improvements that we want to see from Tyler Shough going into his second start. We'll be looking a little bit more in depth at the matchup for Tyler Shough in tomorrow's episode, or crossover Thursday. Myself and Travis Rogers from Locked On Rams are going to break down the game with a specific focus on Tyler Shough and the new quarterback situation for them. And we'll learn a little bit more about the Rams. And then, of course, we'll get you ready for more during Friday. Expect a lot more on the show here as we help to get you ready for what is effectively a new era for the New Orleans Saints. And you'll probably notice it's not the first time that you've heard that. New era, new era, new era. Well, it's another one here in New Orleans. I look back at the timeline of all the things that have happened, and I'm sure I've missed some stuff. Don't get me wrong. But I look back at the timeline of all the things that have happened to see kind of where things are and how much you have seen over the course of the past year following this team, rooting for this team and hoping each step along the way that this team gets better. And you've not seen that yet, but this is all part of the process. The Saints flipped their coaching staff last offseason, this most recent offseason. Now you expect a lot more roster tinkering to happen throughout the season here. And then in the offseason, a lot of roster turnover. And then eventually you'll be looking at what will be effectively a brand new team by the time you get to 2026, and then partway through that, looking ahead to 2027. And so all of that is coming. All of that is on the way. I hear the phrase a lot, like, oh, the Saints need to tear it down the studs. They already have. They cleaned out the entire coaching staff, and now they're working on the roster. And then if that doesn't work, then you start looking at the front office, right? And then you start looking at things like Mickey Loomis and who's doing the drafting, and your personnel, your personnel management, your scouting, all those other things. But for right now, this is where things are as a part of let them try to get through. They want to try to get through a rebuild first. If they can do that, then they're good. If they can't, then you go and find people that can manage a rebuild. And so we'll see where the Saints go, but they're not going to rush through this. We've seen that over and over again. But it's tough. I get it for any fan, because this is going into the Week 9 game here. Week 9 up against the Los Angeles Rams. You're going to see Tyler Shough start. Week 9 has been very important to you, because last year, Week 9, on November 3rd, the Saints fired Dennis Allen. Well, they didn't fire him on November 3rd, but that was the game that got Dennis Allen fired, the loss in Carolina, where you could see how dejected he was, low energy he was, how disappointed he was, how frustrated he was, and to be honest, how downright you could tell kind of afraid he was at the podium following that awful Carolina Panthers game where, Michael Thomas is tweeting crazy about Derek Carr during the game. Cam Jordan's walking out of the tunnels and everything like that. Like, it was a very emotional moment for a lot of the fan base. It was a very emotional moment for this franchise as well. The Saints would go on to fire Dennis Allen the day after that game, the morning after that game. I remember doing my show from the airport lounge on that day, that morning. That was a fond memory, getting to do something a little bit interesting in a play, and getting to cover a big story in a way that was very, very interesting. But now it'll be November 2nd, almost exactly a year to the day later, that the Saints will be starting their new quarterback in Tyler Shough. Well, how did they get there? Well, you have the Derek Carr injury against the New York Giants. I'm sure you remember that. The inexplicable leaping on a second down run on December 8th that ended up messing up all of his stuff and then putting him in a situation where he was out for the rest of the season. Even though they tried to say, no, he might not be. He was out for the rest of the season. February 11th, happy birthday to me. That was when Kellen Moore was hired. Yeah, February 11th was my birthday. Now, that was just a little bit after, of course, him winning a Super Bowl here in New Orleans. Added value for you. Then by April 25th, Tyler Shough was drafted. It seemed like, and look, I'm skipping a lot of the Derek Carr saga in the midst of all that just because I don't feel like revisiting it. But you know what you went through. You know what you went through when he stood at the church and gave his sermon and talked bad about you and all this other stuff. You know what you went through with all that. I don't need to remind you. So come April 25th, the Saints have drafted Tyler Shough, and everybody's going, oh, there's a new quarterback in town. I wonder how that's all going to go. Well, May 10th, Derek Carr retires as the team comes together for what was going to be our first time watching. I think it was like mandatory minicamp, if I remember correctly. We were going to go out there and we were going to see a little bit of it. Maybe it was rookie minicamp. And no Derek Carr anymore. He like randomly retires right before, I remember it was right before I got in the car to drive to the facility, ended up staying home, did a live show with all of you, and then headed to practice later on that day. July 22nd, that was when Tyrann Mathieu retired. Remember that? That was another big surprise, big time surprising retirement there. And that was kind of the moment that we talked about new era after Dennis Allen was fired. We talked about new era after Kellen Moore was hired. We talked about new era after Derek Carr retired, right? Hired, fired, retired. And then really like the real thing that really launched kind of like the new era for New Orleans was when Tyrann Mathieu retired. It kind of forced the Saints into a rebuild. Because even after Derek Carr retired, it was still very much like a competitive, all this other stuff. And then it was like Tyrann Mathieu retired, and then the way that the Saints started doing business changed, right? They started trading for guys that, were going to be helping them out for the future. They started, picking up some of these guys off of waivers, pick up extra waiver years and all these other things. Like everything kind of changed in terms of just roster management and team building from that perspective at that point. So I think that the Tyrann Mathieu retirement paired, of course, with the earlier Derek Carr retirement was a big, big moment for New Orleans. August 26th, Spencer Rattler was named the starter. October 26th, exactly 2 months later, Spencer Rattler was sat during a game. October 28th, on Tuesday, Tyler Shough was named the starter. And November 2nd, nearly a calendar year later to the day, Tyler Shough will see his first start as the New Orleans Saints. You have seen a lot. You have been through a lot. Now it's time to sit down and enjoy and see what happens with Tyler Shough. We appreciate you very much, as always, for being here. Don't forget to catch us every single Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. over on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. We'll see you tomorrow for Crossover Thursday. Thanks so much, as always, making us a part of your day, part of your routine, for saying yes to me on the show. If you see me, please say hi. If you need anything else around your New Orleans Saints in between these episodes, make sure you follow me on your favorite social media at Ross Jackson, NOLA. Hit me up. Let me know what the family's doing. Let me know how you're living. Let me know how you're momming them. And trust Who Dat Nation, I'll holla at you.